Grr, arg.
Hi, everyone, and welcome to the Mixtape Podcast, a podcast where each week we pick a film and we talk about it and we review it from a screenwriter's perspective, but also from a fan's perspective. My name is Dean. I am your host, and I am joined by my co host every single week, Marcelo Nostroza. And this week we are doing Get Out, released in 2017, written and directed by Jordan Peele. And if you have not seen this amazing movie, this is what it's about. A young African American visits his white girlfriend's parents for the weekend, where his uneasiness about their reception of him eventually reaches a boiling point. The opening scene for this movie is there is a black man and he walks alone on a suburban street at night. There's nobody around. He's on his phone. He's trying to find a certain address, and a car drives past him and then turns around and drives back. And this guy turns around, he's like, nope, oh shit, nope, this isn't going to happen. And he tries to like get away. The guy who is, I think he's got like a fucking helmet on, so you can't say who it is, gets out of the car, grabs him and strangles him and puts him in like the trunk of the car. And there's 1930s, like random, weird, happy music playing coming from the car. And that's it. That's the opening scene. I like the opening scene. It's quick. It's swift. It shows you the tone of the movie and kind of what's going to happen, and it's really creepy. So, what did you think about the setup that Jordan did?
The setup for this movie is fantastic because we start with a cold open that we don't think is going to come back, but eventually that guy who gets attacked in the first frame of this movie comes back in a very, very interesting and unique way once our principal character gets taken to a specific place to deal with his girlfriend's family. And I really, really think it's a wonderful way to start out Jordan Peele's first feature. And also, I love the music that is playing in the car when this black man gets attacked and thrown into the trunk of this car, because the music is very off-putting. It's very 1950s. It's very toddler type of music. And I'm like, that's such a fucking strange choice.
Yeah.
But if you pay attention, that music also keys into a bigger plot point of the movie. So everything that Jordan Peele has done in this first frame has set the tone, and you're like, oh my god, if this movie starts out like this, where the hell we're gonna go next?
Yeah, exactly. And I think the reason Jordan picked that song is because he needed something that was very unique, that when you heard it again, which you do, you're like, oh, that's that weird song from the beginning of the movie. So I think however he found that song, because it's a real song, good on him. Anyway, after the opening, the first scene is we meet Chris and Rose, and they're a loved up couple. Chris is black and Rose is white. And they're going to stay with Rose's family for the weekend. And he asks her, do they know I'm black? And she says, well, no, I didn't think it was prudent to bring up. They don't care about that. But Chris is still a bit unsure. He thinks they should know, but he kind of trusts her anyway. And we also learn that this is the first black boyfriend that she's ever had. That's going to come back later. That is a setup. So on the drive to the house, Chris calls his friend Rod. This is another setup. I love Rod. I think Jordan did a really good job of balancing the terror with the comedy. Not like with horror movies, you don't see a lot of comedy in it, but the friend Rod just lightens the mood a bit, and he's calling him to thank him. Thank you for looking after my dog. So there's a purpose he's calling him. And Rod is funny. You easily connect with him, and he works for the TSA, which is important because that will come back at the end. They hit an animal. They end up hitting an animal on the road, and a cop car comes, and it's a white cop, and he shows up asking Chris for ID, even though he wasn't driving. And Rose kind of goes, why do you need his ID? Yeah, I know why you're asking for his ID. You don't, like, she's standing up for Chris, going, basically without saying it, you're a racist piece of shit. You don't need anything from him. He's a passenger. But what this scene does, it sets up Rod, but it also sets up some of the things we're going to see from the people in the film. So what did you think about the setup of Chris and Rose? They love each other. There's no issues. They don't fight. We know Rod has come into it, and it sets up the more of the tone of the film.
I did not like Rose as a character at all.
So they get to Rose's family house, and she's got money and they live on like a big property. And her dad decides to show Chris the house. But really, what he's doing is he's showing us. So it's exposition, but it's like, I'll show Chris the house, but he's showing us stuff that we need to know. We see Rose's mother's room, and it's a therapy room, and we learn that she's a psychiatrist. And then they pass the basement door, and his dad says to Chris, "Oh, that door's locked because there's black mold down there." The screenwriting in this is so good, and it just alludes to what's going to happen and what is actually in the basement at the end of the movie. We learn that the nearest house to their property is across the lake, so it's very, very isolated. We also meet Walter, who's the black groundskeeper, and Georgina, who is the black housekeeper. Whoever this actress is that played Georgina is played it so effing creepy. She's the creepiest thing about this movie. She's brilliant in how she plays the role of Georgina. We also learn that Rose's mother can put people under hypnosis. And then we meet Rose's brother, Jeremy, who's just an absolute fucking tool. If there was ever a fucking tool in a movie, this fucking guy is it. And the actor played it perfectly. So, what did you think about the setup of where we are?
The introduction to Rose's family is absolutely genius, and the fact that Jordan Peele got Bradley Whitford to play Rose's father, for me that's a stroke of genius, because for me Bradley Whitford is Joshua Lyman from The West Wing. Dean said it. When we meet Rose's family, what's a great way to give the audience exposition without giving them exposition? Oh, I'm going to give them a tour of the house. And when they go past the basement door and he says, "Oh, that's locked because we got black mold in the basement," that's a wonderful, 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 wonderful line. But I want to go back to what I said previously. Everything that comes out of Rose's father's mouth seems pointed, and it seems like he's trying too fucking hard. Everything about Rose's family seems off.
Mm.
And I'm like, what the fucking hell? Look, that's not even the worst part about it, because these individuals who are wealthy and they're white are pretending that they care about the community of color. But if they did care, why in the fuck do they have black servants on their property? What the fuck is this? Like,
Yeah. Well, but the dad explained it because he says to
right,
Chris,
yeah,
like,
yeah,
"Oh, I know it looks
yeah, yeah,
weird."
I get that. But when we find out the twist with those servants, that's cool too. But from an outset, everything about this movie, and again, guys, it may sound like I'm complaining, but I'm not. Everything about this movie is off kilter,
Mm.
and everything about this movie makes you question everything that you're seeing. And to me, that is both really, really masterful, but is really, really, really frustrating and restricting as an audience member. And I really, really enjoy that. And this script got nominated for an Oscar, and it won an Oscar for Jordan Peele.
Yes. It's one of those movies that it's you don't know what's going on until literally the last 20 minutes of the movie. But he set it up so much, he set it up so well that you stick around. You're like, you want to know. You're like, what the fuck is going on? Why are these people so fucking weird? Right? So it's not boring at all. Every scene, there is a purpose to every single scene, which, yes, he should have won the Oscar, and he did. So Chris goes out for a smoke at night when everybody is asleep and sees Walter, the groundskeeper, and he's running towards him like full bore. And then as soon as he gets to him, he runs in a different direction. It's just weird. And he's not even in like running gear. He's in his like fucking groundskeeper gear. And Chris is like, okay, that's weird. He turns to the house and he sees Georgina admiring herself in the glass, like reflection. And he's like, what? Like just little things like that. He's just like, okay, that's weird, but it's not really okay. I'll just leave it. He heads back into the house, and Rose's mum is sitting in her therapy room and asks Chris, can I put you under hypnosis to get rid of your smoking habit? And he kind of agrees, and he sits down opposite her. And she asks him how his mum died. And he says he was home alone, it was raining, and she never came home. And then she says, I want you to focus on the rain. And he does. And then he says, wait a minute, I can't, why can't I move? And she says, oh, that's because you're paralyzed. And then she leans forward, and this is honestly, this is the best part of the movie. She leans forward and she says, "Now sink into the floor." And he's like, "Wait, what? What? Sink." And so I can't even tell you how fucking awesome this is. We see Chris falling into like a dark abyss until he lands, and you're like, "What?" He looks up and sees like a movie screen like way high above him. Like imagine if you're standing on the ground looking up towards the clouds. Like that's how high it is. And it's of what his eyes are actually seeing. So it's as if his soul is taking a back seat to his body, but he can't do anything. And all the while the mum is talking, she's got a cup of tea and she's stirring it. And the teacup and the spoon clinking on the teacup puts him in the hypnotic state. And then he wakes up and thinks it's a dream because it's in his bed. He's gone in. She calls it the sunken place where he goes into. It's so good, and it's usually when someone puts someone under hypnosis, it's like they go, "Look at this clock, you're getting sleepy," but she does it so innocently. Just, "Oh, I'm just having tea with the clink." Like it's so innocent, you don't even know what's going on. He had no idea that she was putting him under just by using the clink of the teacup, and I just thought it was genius. And that scene is like right at the beginning of the movie, and then you're like, "Whoa, wait, what the fuck am I watching? What the fuck is going on?" And that's when you go, what is this movie? So, thoughts?
When I saw this movie for the first time in the theater with my best friend and the tea scene came up, and I mean, that scene blew the back of my head out. The fact that Jordan Peele set up a hypnosis scene like that is so phenomenal because the minute that she says fall through the floor, everything changes. Like what you think this movie is isn't what it is anymore. It's so it's such a creative way to show someone being hypnotized. Like it's just amazing. I absolutely love it. But the thing about it that I absolutely love is before Chris wakes up in his bed, Jordan Peele does this one shot of Chris and his eyes wide open. He's visibly crying. And I'm like, oh my God, that is such a impactful, striking shot. And then he cuts over to Chris waking up in bed. So it's such a wonderful scene.
Mm. No, it is. It is. It just sets up everything. So the next day, Chris is on the property and his photographer is just taking photos. And he goes up to Walter, the groundskeeper, the dude that was running towards him. And Walter is super weird. Super weird. Like borderline someone who's been programmed like an AI or a robot or something. And everything he says is just like Chris is looking at him like, okay, it's super weird. And Walter asks Chris, did everything go well with the hypnosis last night? And so that shows that it wasn't a dream, that it actually happened. So the dad is throwing an annual party and it's full of older white people. Everyone Chris talks to, it looks kind of to be sizing him up because he's the only black guy there and he feels extremely uncomfortable.
This whole movie is extremely uncomfortable, not only for Chris, but for the audience. Because you're like, the fuck is going on here?
I
What is
agree.
happening?
I agree. It's the whole movie from start to finish is uncomfortable, whether you're black or white. It's uncomfortable. So Chris sees another black guy and he's like instantly at ease. He's like, oh, great, there's another black dude. So he goes up to him, and this is Logan. He approaches, but the guy's weird as well. He's weird, like Walter. It's like, why are these black people on this property like weird? And so they have a weird conversation, and he goes to fist pump him. And the other guy puts his hand around Chris's fist as if to show, like, he doesn't know what, like, obviously, if someone puts their fist out, you put your fist out and you do the fist pump. But this guy didn't know how to do it. And it's really ingenious the way that Jordan does this. It's just little things that you go, well, he should have known how to do that. Anyone of, this generation would know exactly what that is. And then Chris meets a blind art dealer who says he thinks Chris has a great eye, as his secretary has described his photographs to him. That's a small scene, but that will come back later. So that's the first half of that scene. But what did you think about the first half of the party and all that stuff?
This whole party is so like confirmation to me that Rose's family is pretending to like people of color, and that
Mm.
they may be quote unquote secret racists even if you try to exude a certain image, there's a point where you can't hide your true beliefs and what you truly believe. And this party should tell Chris that he needs to get the fuck out of there as soon as humanly possible.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
The one thing that I pick up with this movie every time that I watch it is the way that these black people, specifically who are on the property, act around Chris, and how they act when Chris is not directly interacting with them. Dean said it. These black people act extremely weird. And the one interaction that he has with the black guy at the party, when Chris tries to fist bump him and the black guy doesn't know what to do, I'm like, what in the hell?
So Chris goes into the house and he goes upstairs. And when he goes upstairs, because there's heaps of partygoers in the house, everyone just stops what they're doing, and they look up. And I'm like, what? It's fucking creepy. No, that's fucking creepy. Like, why they? No, it's as if they're acting normal, and then when he leaves the room, they're not normal. That's That's kind of what it said to me.
It's almost like they're admiring him like a deer or like a beautiful animal for some fucked up reason, right?
Yes.
Why are they doing that? It doesn't make sense. Why are they looking at him like a piece of meat?
Yeah, it will. So Chris goes upstairs to the bedroom and he finds his phone has been unplugged and it's like almost dead, like there's no juice. And he's like, what? Because he plugged it in. Georgina comes in, the housekeeper, and she tells him she accidentally unplugged his phone when she was cleaning. She didn't mean anything by it. And he goes, oh, no, that's okay. I didn't mean to snitch on you, because he had told Rose, Georgina unplugged it. And this is interesting too. She doesn't know what that means. Snitch? He's looking at her like, what? And she says, oh, is it like tattletale? And he was like, yeah. Now, tattletale is a very old word. Just for a moment, Georgina loses composure. This actress is so good. Just for a fraction of a second, she loses it, and then she gets it. She gets it back. She has composure again, and there's tears rolling down her face, but she acts like there's no tears, like everything's totally normal. And you're like, it's like split personality. It's like, what the fuck is going on with this woman? So Chris goes back downstairs to the party, and he goes out, and Chris is asked by one of the partygoers if being African American is an advantage or a disadvantage in like today. And Chris is like, yeah, I don't want to go there. That's just ridiculous. Chris spots Logan, the only other black guy, the weird dude from before, and asks him, he goes, hey man, like, what do you think? And Logan goes, I really find it an advantage, and I've only had good experiences. And Chris is just like, what the, like, no, 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 that's, I can't believe what he's hearing. And then Chris takes out his phone and takes a picture of Logan, because in the next scene, he's like, I think I know him. He takes a picture, but if the flash goes off, and when the flash goes off, it's like it snaps Logan out of like a trance, and he looks at Chris and he yells, he lunges at him, he yells at him to get out now, get out. And he's grabbing Chris, and he's like, and Chris is like, what the fuck is going on? And he's hauled away by the family. I love that. I love the setup. I love everything about it, because that will come back at the end. And it just when he comes out of the trance, you're like, wait a minute, what? Because even though he's weird, it's like maybe he's just a weird dude. But when the flash went off, it's like, wait a minute, something's going on. The first time anybody watches this movie, you can try and guess what's going on, but you won't. You will never get it until Jordan reveals it at the end. And that's why I like this movie so much.
I really, really love this scene because, look, Jordan just keeps expertly layering the story with intrigue, mystery, and he drops so many hats on the ground to what's going to happen in the third act that it's absolutely masterful. Like Dean said, when I watched this movie for the first time, I had suspicions about what the fuck is going on here, but what it actually is when Jordan reveals it in the third act turn is so far beyond what I was actually thinking.
Yeah, it's so far beyond what anybody was thinking. Like, I don't know how he came up with this idea, but I've never seen it before. Anyway, so after the debacle, Rose's father says the flash from the camera set off like a seizure. He's prone to seizures and he had a seizure. And then we see him come out of the mum's therapy room with Rose's mum and he's all calm and he's normal. He goes, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to scare people. And he's just back to being fucking weird. Chris goes out with Rose and he goes, I don't believe it was a seizure. I know people that have had seizures. That's not a seizure. Like, it's not what it looks like. And Rose says, well, my dad's a neurosurgeon, so he would know. And you're like, oh, okay. Because you know this family's weird, but you don't know how fucking weird they are. So Chris also says he felt like he knew the guy. And Rose says, you know Logan. And he says, no, I felt like I knew the guy that came at me. I absolutely love that dialogue because he's not saying he knows him. He's saying he knew the guy that came at him. Basically saying it's two completely different people. One other thing I want to point out is the shirt that Rose is wearing. She's wearing a striped red and white shirt. Now, that reminded me of, we call it Where's Wally, Americans call it Where's Waldo. For people that don't, Jordan Peele would absolutely know what this is. For the younger people that don't know, it was a thing in the 90s, early 2000s. You know what Where's Waldo is, yes?
Of course I do.
Right. So the shirt she was wearing reminds me of it. And I'm like, that's interesting that he would put her in that. And then I realized what Where's Waldo or Wally, what he does. He hides in plain sight. And I went, I see what you did there, Jordan. I see what you did there, and it's fucking genius. Thoughts?
You know, for years, I never really understood why this movie got so much love. I mean, listen, I loved it. I still love it, but you're not gonna believe this, Dean. Until this conversation that we're having right now, I was always mad with this movie for winning Best Original Screenplay at the Oscars. Like, I never got it, but actually sitting down, taking this movie apart from a writer's perspective, finally made me truly understand the genius of this movie from a script perspective. This script is so well thought out, so well crafted, and it deserved every accolade that it got, including the Oscar, because it's just phenomenal.
It is. So the party goers are playing a game of bingo. It's silent bingo, and with Rose's dad is leading them, and he puts his fingers up to show the numbers. Usually in bingo you have balls that you pick up. They've got numbers on them, but he's showing them with his hands because it's silent. And next to him is a massive picture of Chris, as if they're bidding for Chris. And then the blind guy wins. And still you're like, I have no fucking clue what's going on. And this is literally halfway through the movie and you still go, what the fuck is going on? So what do you reckon about that scene?
This scene was really unsettling to me, as if to say this whole movie is unsettling to me, but it's so weird. Why are they playing a silent game of bingo, and why are they doing it with a giant picture of Chris out in the front lawn? It doesn't make sense. Nothing in this movie makes sense until the last fucking moment.
So Chris ends up sending Rod the photo of Logan that he took. And Rod says, yeah, I know that. I know him. That's Dre. Why is he there? And Chris goes, I knew him. And he says, look, everything is off with this guy. Like, he's with a white woman like 30 years older than him. And Rod freaks out saying, sex slave. They made him a sex slave. The white people taking black people and they're making them sex slaves. And Chris is just like, oh, jeez. Like, he's just like, this guy's an idiot. So he tells Chris, you need to get out of there now. They're going to do the same shit to you. That's what white people do. And he goes, okay, yeah, okay. So he hangs up on him. And he finds a box of photographs. And all of them are of Rose with black guys in romantic poses, including Walter and Georgina. But she'd said at the beginning of the movie that that Chris was the first black guy that she'd ever been with. The whole film, Rose has been innocent. But now you go,
Not I. When Chris found that box of photos of Georgina with different black men, I was like, see, I told you that white bitch was crazy.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I absolutely love this scene because this scene really spelled out to me the point where Chris was like, dude, I got to get the fuck out of here. I have to do anything I possibly can to get the fuck away from these white people.
Yeah.
but the fact that he doesn't, and the fact that every time he tries to get away or separate himself from them, they do something to draw him back in. In a way, I think that Chris's inability to escape allowed him to stay there long enough to do what he's going to do in the third act. Because if he was Rod, I bet you Rod would have gotten out of that fucking situation a lot faster. And because he got out a lot faster, maybe this fucked up family would have been allowed to continue what they're actually doing here.
Yeah. Yeah. No, exactly. So Chris tells Rose, I want to go. I want to get out of here. Like, I just want to go home. She's like, okay, okay. So she packs everything and she's like, shit, I can't find the keys. So Chris heads downstairs because he's frantic now. He's like, nah, fuck this. I want to go. And he goes to leave. And the brother is blocking the door. Fuck this fucking guy. Fuck this guy. Anyway, I fucking hate the brother. And the dad is in the living room.
He's a dick.
And the dad starts talking about life and death. And I love this line of dialogue. It's so good. He says, we are gods trapped in cocoons. And I'm like, Jordan, God damn it. God damn it. That's so fucking Jordan. That's so fucking good. Oh my God, I love it so much. Did you love, the scene's gonna go on. I'm still talking about it, but
Look,
line is a bit special.
Jordan Peele is Jordan Peele for a reason.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
And that line tells you exactly how talented this emerging filmmaker is. I mean, he is fucking amazing. And this is before Monkey Paw became a big thing. That's his production company.
Mhm.
This is where it all started for him.
Yeah. So Chris is asking Rose for the keys and she's frantically looking in her bag and he's like getting pissed off. He's like, get the keys. Where's the keys? I need the keys now. We need to go. And she's like, I can't find them. And then he turns around, he goes, I need the keys. And she just like, this fucking actress, she's frantic. And then she just goes fucking deadpan. And she picks the keys up from her bag. Like she had them the whole time. She goes, I can't give you the keys, right, babe? And at that point, you're like, what? Unless they're you. But for everybody else watching this, you're like, oh my God, she's been so caring, giving, considerate. And it's just, she just fucking turns on a dime and you're like, what? And then he turns around, the mum taps her spoon on the teacup and Chris just instantly falls to the floor. And we see his soul again, like his consciousness, I shouldn't say soul, consciousness, fall into the sunken place watching a TV screen of what is happening to his body, but unable to stop it. Like, genius writing.
Yes, this whole scene is the giant turn that I've been sort of alluding to, and Dean has alluded to a little bit throughout the course of this conversation. Look, the fact that everybody thinks that Chris's girlfriend is this little innocent little white woman did not work for me. I was waiting for this white bitch to turn, but the fact that it happens at the exact moment where Chris is fucking losing it, going, I need the keys, I need the keys, I need the keys, I want to get the fuck out of here. And she says, oh no, wait a minute, the keys are right here. And then her eyes go dead. Fucking genius. And I love the moment when Chris turns and you see Rose's mother and she just taps the spoon and he goes completely, he just passes out and he falls into the sunken place. I'm like, that is the fucking way that you set something up, you pay it off. And also, now we're finally going to know what the fuck is happening with this fucking movie. It is so... Listen, this turn is so well worth it. Like, I can't tell you how perfect Jordan Peele set this whole thing up. He put everything on a platter for us just to eat in the third act. It's fucking great.
So Rod calls Chris's phone, but keeps getting sent to voicemail. And he like Googles Dre, which is the weird guy Logan, and sees that he's on a missing persons list. And he's like, what the fuck? It's the same dude. And so he goes to the police saying he thinks his friend has been abducted and these white people are brainwashing black people and turning them into sex slaves. And he's basically laughed out of the room. But like, it's not kind of far off. It's a little bit to the left, but it's not far off. And then he tries to call Chris's phone again. And Rose answers and tells him Chris left his phone. And Rod says, but he never came back. And we see Rose and she's deadpan. There's no emotion, but she's doing tones with her voice that makes it sound on the phone like she's really like oh my god, where is he? Where's Chris? But the actress is deadpan. It's like Jordan says, no emotion on your face. No emotion, but your voice has to come across as you're really concerned as to where Chris is. And that creeps me out more than anything in the film. That scene with that actress doing that shit. So she's pretending to care, but Rod isn't believing it. Rod is not believing it. And then she starts to say, look, she knows he has a thing for her and he's liked her, all the like, just starts saying really weird shit. And he's like, what the fuck? And hangs up on her. He's like, I knew it. This bitch has done something. I knew it. Like, he's just so funny. But yeah, this actress, she scared me more than anything else in the film.
This actress played her role geniusly. Look, the fact that I sussed her out immediately has nothing to do with it, but the way that she played this character innocent for 98% of the movie, and then in the third act how she just turns. Dean just mentioned that conversation when Rod calls looking for Chris, and just the tone of this actress's voice, you're like, oh, she's really worried. But when when Jordan shows what she actually looked like, she's fucking flat. It's a fucking fantastic moment. But that's not actually my favorite moment. My favorite moment is when this actress is sitting on her bed eating Fruit Loops and listening to music.
She's listening to the whitest song ever from the whitest movie ever, Dirty Dancing, on Top of My Life.
Yeah. It's just so
that's fucking creepy as in how she sips the milk. I'm like, fuck, dude.
You know what she looks like? She looks like she wants to make her body sterile. It looks fucking off.
I know.
All of it looks off.
So off. So fucking weird.
And also, I just want to tell you, like, I never liked Rod.
Oh.
But this movie or this discussion made me finally understand the genius of him. Like, for some reason, this time around, his character played 100 times better for me, because every other time that I've seen this movie, and I've seen this movie quite a bit, guys, I've never liked him as a character. I always thought that he was the comic relief that never really worked for me. This time, everything that he did, every line that he said, just worked for me 110%.
Yeah. So Chris wakes up and he's tied to a chair, and a TV turns on in front of him, and he sees the blind art dealer that he had a previous conversation with in a hospital gown, who tells him hypnosis was phase 1. It's how they sedate you. Phase 2 is mental preparation, and phase 3 is transplantation. But you'll have limited consciousness once the procedure is complete. You'll be able to see and you'll be able to hear everything your body is doing, but your existence will be as a passenger. So basically, he will permanently live in the sunken place. It is a transfer of another person's consciousness into Chris's body, and that's the fucking mic drop of the movie.
I love this moment. Listen, like Dean, I have no fucking idea where Jordan Peele got this from, but like come on,
he fucking knows.
Like, are you serious? This is absolutely amazing. I like the concept of mind transfer when it comes to, okay, the reason that Rose's family was so weird and the reason why Rose's friends were so weird is because they are white privileged rich people who want to transfer their consciousnesses into younger into younger bodies, specifically the bodies of younger Black men.
Mm-hmm.
I really, really like that concept. And if you look at it, that's why all the servants on Rose's family's property were acting really strange, because those servants were being controlled by the mind of white people.
Yeah, the consciousness. Yeah.
Right, the consciousness. Yeah.
So after Chris watches the video, he's scratching at the chair, and he sees there's like cotton coming out of the chair because he's so nervous. And then on the TV screen, there's a cup of tea, and he's like, no, because he knows the clink is going to put him out. So the clink happens, and he goes out. And then the brother walks in, where Chris is still tied to the chair, and this is, Jordan, God help you, I love you, but this is the only part where I went, The brother walks in, Chris is still obviously tied to the chair. He unties him, turns around, and then Chris gets up and hits him over the head and then pulls cotton stuffing from the chair that he has put in his ears so he doesn't hear the clink. I have a problem with this. First of all, the last time we saw Chris, he was in the chair. He'd just finished watching the video, like I previously said, and he'd noticed the stuffing, but when it clinked, he was out. And also, how did he get the stuffing in his ear when he's tied to the fucking chair? Do you want to explain that?
No, I can't because it doesn't make sense.
It just makes no sense.
Now,
His
look,
hands are
I
literally
mean,
tied to the chair. How the fuck's he putting stuffing in his ears?
yeah, well, listen, it would have made sense if he actually untied himself, got up from the chair, then took the cotton from the inside of the chair. That's the only way that it would have made sense.
Yeah. Yeah. But that's the only thing about this movie that I'm like, come on, Jordan. Come on, dude.
Yeah, but also, but also, I think we have to give Jordan a break because up until this point, the script had been batting 110%. Now it's down to like 90.
Look, I don't think many people noticed, but he could have fucking done something else with that. But anyway, that's just a me thing. And then Chris kills the father, kills the mum. Then the brother comes back and he fucking kills him again. We didn't kill him the first time, we just knocked him out. Meanwhile, Rose is upstairs listening to fucking I've Had the Time of My Life, so she can't hear anything downstairs. You see her searching for her next victim, her next black guy that she's going to entice into coming there on the internet. So that's it. Thoughts?
The scene of Rose looking for her next black victim to bring up to her family to have surgery again. This is the creepiest moment of the movie for me because this character looks so off and so sterile. I mean, the fact that she's listening to "We've Had the Time of Our Lives" from Dirty Dancing. By the way, we've covered that on the show, guys.
We have.
Uh, it's so disturbing.
No, it is. It is. Yeah.
I love it, but I only love it because it's so disturbing.
Yes. So Chris gets the keys after he's killed everybody. And he gets into the car, and it's the same car from the beginning playing the same fucking 1930s like weird shit. So Chris is in the car and he's speeding away from the house. Georgina runs out in front of him and he hits her. He gets out and he puts her in the car because, I don't know, maybe he thinks he can save her or maybe he can snap her out of it. I don't know. So she wakes up. When she wakes up, she starts hitting him and saying, "You ruined my house. You ruined my family." And then it turns out that Georgina is the grandmother of Rose. So Rose's grandmother's consciousness was put into Georgina's body. That's why she was fucking weird. That's why she was admiring herself in the mirror. Then he crashes the car because she's like trying to like jump him in the car. And she dies. He doesn't. She does. That's it.
That's a great scene, and that's a great sort of conclusion to her character. And again, to find out that almost every black servant on the property had the mind of a older white privileged person, imprinted on their brain. Like, it's the trippiest shit ever.
Fuck yeah, it is. Fucking trippy as shit. So Chris gets out of the car and Rose is walking down the driveway because he didn't really get far. And she's firing at him with a rifle. Again, she's deadpan face. Walter comes out and stands next to Rose, and Rose says, "Get him, Grandpa." So that's her grandpa. That's why he was being fucking weird before. Walter runs down Chris, trying to kill him, and Chris grabs his phone out and takes a flash photo of Walter. And we know what this does. It snaps them out of it. So that was a brilliant setup by Jordan. And Walter stands up and he turns to Rose and he says, "Let me do it." But he's turned, but Rose doesn't. So she hands him the rifle and he shoots her and then he shoots himself because it was never said, but there's probably nothing you can do about being the way that they are. So he's like, "Yeah, I'm not living like this. Like, I'll just shoot myself." Rose is still alive and Chris goes over and he tries to strangle her, but like he can't because like he's a good guy. He doesn't want to kill anyone. He's just fucking angry that like she fucking duped him. A cop car shows up and instantly you're like, oh no. there's a black guy kneeling over an injured white girl. This is not going to end well. This is going to be, and you can see on Chris's face, fuck, this is going to be bad because you think it's the cop that was set up in the beginning, this fucking white, patrol cop. And the door of the car opens. And on the side of it says airport security, and Rod steps out. And that is why Jordan made him TSA for this moment. And you go, holy fuck. Holy fuck. Because you don't want Chris to get in shit because you know he didn't do anything wrong. Chris gets in the car and he asks how he found him. And Rod says, this is the last scene. He goes, how'd you find me? And Rod says, and it completely makes sense. He goes, I'm TS motherfucking A. We handle shit. And then he goes, I told you not to go in the house. And Chris is just like he just doesn't want to fucking talk about it. And that's it. That's the end. I thought it was great.
I loved everything about this final sequence except for one thing. I know Chris is a good guy, but he should have killed that fucking bitch. I don't care. I don't care. He should have spun her head off like a top. I love the fact that when the police car rolls up, we have that moment of high tension, thinking that it's the cop from earlier in the film, but when it turns out to be Rod, is so fantastic. The thing that Rod says in the car in the last seconds of this movie is fantastic. The fact that Chris doesn't have any reaction and he just stands there and he just sits there deadpan is great. This movie was a hell of a directorial debut to someone who had previously done a bunch of comedy skits on Comedy Central.
Hmm.
It's unbelievable how good Jordan Peele was from the moment go. Guys, that never happens.
So the trivia for this movie is Universal has asked Jordan for a sequel, and Jordan is open to it, but he says, I don't want to make a sequel just to make a sequel. I want to make it if I have the right story. Now listen, this movie doesn't need a sequel because if you have a sequel, you already know what's going on. The point of the movie is to be a mystery. Some movies need sequels. This movie does not need a sequel. What do you reckon?
I'm very happy that Jordan Peele is sticking by his guns and says, I'm open to a sequel, but I'm not going to do one unless I have the right story. To me, that's him just saying, to me, that's sort of him telling the studio, giving them hope, but understanding in his soul that he's never going to write one.
Yeah. Eddie Murphy was originally chosen for the role of Chris because Jordan Peele was a massive fan, but he was too old, so he couldn't use him. Ba-bow.
Really? That's interesting. But I think that Jordan Peele made the right decision.
Oh yeah. So now I'm gonna say this, but I'm gonna explain why before you lose your shit. Okay. Jordan wrote almost 200 drafts of this film. I'm going to tell you why he wrote 200 drafts. He was never intending to make this film. He was writing it to get better as a writer. That's why there's 200 drafts. That's why he did 200 drafts. It was just a learning and a teaching tool for him.
Hearing that gives me agita, but understanding the reasoning behind it just makes me respect Jordan Peele that much more as a filmmaker and as a creative individual, because to write a story over 200 times just to get better at your craft really shows devotion, and it shows that you are in this for the long haul. And that to me is outstanding.
All right, guys, that's it. That's the end. We hope you've enjoyed Get Out. If you like us, you can subscribe to us. You can like the video. We've got heaps of other movies that we have reviewed on the podcast. If you want to email us, you can email us at themixtapepod@aol.com. Up next week, we have an amazing horror movie directed by one of, if not my favorite director, Mr. Mike Flanagan. We're doing Oculus. So please stick with us and join us next week for that. And as I say every week, if someone is kind enough to make you a mixtape, that must mean that they really love you. The Mixtape Podcast is a Balloonhead Productions presentation.